Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on this fireside chat. My name's Amma. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm also the partnerships lead here at PPC Protect. So today we're going to be discussing turning advertising insights into action. Areas we're going to be sort of touching on will basically consist of, what constitutes typical traffic stream to online ads. Where does it come from? What's its nature? And then how can we kind of gain insight on these clicks, both that do and also do not convert as well? So I suppose essentially, how do we uncover this excluded or invalid data initially? Is it a tool? Is it a solution? And then how can digital agencies kind of use this data to really enhance the performance of their clients' campaigns? So with me today, I've got two speakers. I've got Pete Rawlinson, he's a CMO at PPC Protect, and I've also got Lewis Kemp here today, and he is the CEO at Lightbulb Media. How are you both today, gents? You well?
Good, very good, Amal, thank you.
Not too bad, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, pleasure. So before we get started, guys, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping bits. As always, we're going to try and keep this session down to about 20 minutes. I'll try my best to rein them both in. It is going to be recorded and will be available on demand afterwards. In terms of questions, so you will be able to ask questions throughout the session, and there's going to be people available to answer those from the teams as well. And then the last thing is polls. We are going to have a few polls in there, so just keep your eyes out for those, and please do participate if you can. Okay, let's get started. I suppose, Pete, let's come to you first. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in your world and kind of really how this relates to sort of gaining insights in advertising?
Yeah, cheers, Amal, thanks. Yeah, it's quite interesting to talk about insights, advertising insights through data in one breath, and then talk about click fraud prevention, which is what PPC Protect does, in another. But bear with us as we go through the next few minutes, because it'll all become very, very clear. PPC Protect has been in the business of click fraud prevention for a number of years now. We've analyzed literally billions of clicks and really kind of waded our way through lots and lots of huge volumes of data in order to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of paid acquisition traffic channels. I do want to just paint a little picture, and I do have a slide here before we kind of go into the main answer there in terms of where we are with click fraud. And the only reason why I talk about this is, click fraud is kind of where we've kind of started to get into what we call excluded data. And that's where we believe all of this potential for hidden advertising insights comes from. But the reason why we're in click fraud is because, as you can see, it's a problem. I don't need to tell you the numbers here, but these are scary numbers. These are actually based on just our own client base. We have about 1,000 clients around the world, different sizes and locations and industries. And these are obviously pretty concerning numbers. What's most concerning is the increase in fraudulent activity, right? 13% over the past year. And that's a scary number. And that's probably due in part because of the increasing sophistication of those people who are kind of creating invalid traffic or non-human traffic. And as commercial incentives, more businesses going online. So that kind of paints the picture of click fraud. This is the business we're in. And as we go through I'm going to take this screen sharing off here so you can see us properly. As we go through the next few minutes, I think I want to kind of talk about how click fraud has kind of led us to some significant insights in terms of advertising that I want to share with you and with Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. So from our point of view, obviously we've been using PPC Protect on a few clients as well. I think probably the biggest thing for us, and the thing that we've had the most kind of kickback from, was the iOS updates as well, and obviously Google announcing the end of third-party cookies. So previously, you could really granularly measure everything that was really happening across multiple platforms. The second that stopped happening, as marketers, we've always known that all advertising comes from multi-touch point, multi-attribution journeys. But when you're speaking to a business who's been so used to seeing very granular detail of I put in X to get out Y here, and then suddenly that data is threatened to be disappearing, we needed to essentially re-educate people on actually how marketing works and where the data is being missed and how all those different touch points contribute towards a common goal. So a lot of it has been kind of allaying those fears and trying to visualize in the best way possible how these customer journeys actually take place, and where people can actually be saving money. Because it's easy to say measure holistically, but at the end of the day, you still need to know what channels are working and what channels aren't. So there are ways around it.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of look at it from the perspective of like this kind of 3 different cohorts of traffic that hits paid acquisition, right? There's the good converting traffic, which everyone wants to optimize, and MarTech's been optimized, and marketers' skill sets have been optimized around that cohort, which about, averages about 20% of the traffic that actually clicks on your ads. Then you've got the unambiguously bad stuff that, non-human, just fraudulent activity. You just want it's never going to convert. You want to get rid of that. But there's this middle part that you were referring to, I think, Lewis, which is the unknown, right? Like because you can't access this click data from the ad networks, typically, you don't know what's in that. And unfortunately, because everyone's focused on decent ROI, actually, from that high converting cohort of traffic, it's almost accepted that the unknown is kind of like a cost of doing business. And we kind of look at it the other way, kind of look, well, as we've gone through click fraud, we have to analyze every single click. And what we found is some of those ones that were kind of being thrown away, actually, was really interesting insights that you can get from that data. So, and I think there's huge insights that kind of agencies can provide to their clients through analyzing that data as well.
Yeah,
so that's what we kind of latched onto, I guess.
Absolutely, and I think it's the pressure that obviously businesses put on agencies and marketers to always go ahead of, really go out and seek that 20% of, the high converting traffic. But you've got to understand that, not everybody's ready to buy yet. And a lot of these searches, you have to understand the intent behind the searches. There's a lot of zero-click searches because Google cares about 2 things: 1, providing relevant results, and 2, charging advertisers through the nose. Oh yeah, actually 3, hiding everything that actually works, so that you'll spend more. So yeah, from our point of view, we're trying to educate people on all the different kind of intent levels of where those customers are in that journey, because they are going to be contributing. If we're constantly, driving yourself into a corner, chasing, metrics like ROAS, which, were great up until recently, but you can't use that as a North Star metric anymore because it just isn't commercially viable for most businesses.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the state of data transparency and paid acquisition now, then, I suppose from your view, Lewis, like how good or bad do you think that state is? Like, it's, I know you've said obviously it's taken a bit of a downturn, but is it in such a state where it needs a lot of help, or how are you kind of getting through it with your clients?
Well, I think for us, obviously, we're at the coalface of it as marketers. We understand how much it changes, and we've come to terms with the fact that every channel is going to want to be the hero. Every channel is probably going to overinflate what their importance in that journey. But for a brand at the other end of it, we're the middle people. They're just saying, "Oh, well, this has disappeared. Why is that not working?" Oh, well, actually, no, it is working. You're just looking in the wrong place to measure it now. So that education piece is really, really hard. And if you're a brand doing this yourself and you've been doing DIY and it's been going okay, and then suddenly we speak to people who have been managing their own market and they go, "Oh, it just fell off a cliff in April." We're like, "Oh, I wonder why." Every time there's an update where we lose cookies or we lose some kind of transparency, the people that don't live and breathe it every day panic stations, switch it off, it's not working. No, it's all still working, but you need to know where to look, what stack of tech to put together to actually figure out what is working, what isn't working. So we can only do so much when we're trying to educate people. If they don't want to listen to the facts, it's not, we've had a conversation where they go, "Oh, I don't accept that." It doesn't really matter whether you accept it or not. This is the way it is. You can't change that. And if you're going to try and change the facts and the tech, you're going to lose ultimately. So you have to, we're at the mercy of these big beasts that, your Facebooks and your Googles. There's not much we can do. We can have a bit of kickback, but at the end of the day, they control the market. So we have to go with the tide.
It's scary, and that is your data. Like, that's been clicked on. You're paying for that. You're paying for those clicks. You're paying for the data, and oftentimes it's completely opaque to you. So you've got the dynamic of there's an increasing amount of non-converting activity out there that's still clicking on your ads that you're paying for, and the ad networks are still remaining pretty opaque in terms of your access to that data. So what do? You're kind of held at the mercy, and that's where we think that tools like ours and many others out there as well that actually really get into the detail and really understand this first-party click data, that could be something like a really significant opportunity for like organizations like Lightbulb and others to provide more value to their clients.
You have to. It doesn't work. What Google and Facebook do, it wouldn't work in any of the scenarios. So imagine if you go to Tesco and say, right, how much money do we make this week? Like, oh, we made like 5 million. Okay, what do we sell the most of? I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean you can't tell me that? Well, we sold some, but like, you should just keep everything going. And I don't understand. I don't know if there is ever going to be, regulation brought in to open up that transparency. I know there was a lot of kickback from reducing kind of search terms and black boxing everything. But I do think, we do need to keep fighting back against that, because otherwise everything's just going to be a smart campaign. Trust us, everything's broad match. Suddenly you're 10 grand out of pocket and you go, where's it gone? Well, on some porn site in Ukraine for 10,000 clicks, and you're like, what on earth? That can't be legal.
Yeah. Liz, can I ask you what, there's a lot of people out there that we speak to that have, especially with their experience in Google, believe that Google will just kind of refund you any kind of non-converting clicks or any, like, what's your experience with that? Because ours hasn't been great.
Absolutely not. So I remember we had an occasion with a client, and they were running like a marketplace. They were spending a fair bit. I think they were spending about 15, 20 grand a month. And then this was when Google had the auto recommendations on. So when we took over the account, we said, oh, no, turned off, switched everything off, told them specifically, right, leave us alone. They were dealing with some account manager. And then we got a big bill through. I mean, like, oh my God, why is the conversion data so low? So then the client looked at it and was like, what do you think of this, guys? Because we were doing some consulting at the time. We were like, what on earth has gone on there? And basically the recommended recommendations had all been auto-applied. And it had completely just rinsed the monthly budget on, completely irrelevant clicks. So we were like, obviously we tried to help them like raise the case for it. And they're like, oh, well, we can't really do much. So you're gonna have to like write that off. What? Sorry. So you essentially technically stole money with an auto recommendation, didn't tell the person that you were auto applying these changes, took their money, and then when they questioned you on it, go, not really our problem.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, the problem that even if, in the rare occasion that you actually do get refunded from Google, that doesn't really solve the problem, right? Because the ad's already been clicked. So the click's already gone through. So, you know what I mean? So like, okay, you might get the refund, but the downstream costs of identifying and mitigating that false click can be, many factors, higher than the cost of the original click, right?
Yeah, but we know that from marketing. It's very rare that someone clicks the first ad they see, goes on and buys something. Your money is made in retargeting. And if all those clicks are just muddy, non-human bots, competitors, all the rubbish that comes through, that's all that's going to end up in your retargeting audiences, and you're spending money going, why is this not working? And then you're switching off things that actually would work if you kind of turn that tap off at the top end. The second it all starts dripping through, you're losing money at every stage of the funnel there.
Yeah, totally. So I know Mark, you have some questions for us, but like, this is a great conversation here.
I'll tell
you what we're really interested in, because we've recently expanded our platform, Lewis, to include all paid media. So we focused on Google for the first couple of years. Now it's everything, right? And what we actually do is we analyze traffic behavior on platforms, centralize that, and then use that analyzed behavior to provide protection across all of the platforms. And one of the things we're seeing here is when you kind of make the traffic a little bit cleaner, but B, you're able to look at, if there's any kind of weird activity going on or opaque data on one particular platform, you can actually apply that same analysis of that behavior onto other platforms, like almost straight away, right? So you may have been kind of analyzing behavior on Google for a year. Now you want to go into Facebook, you want to go into, I don't know, TikTok or wherever, then there's already a lot of information that can help you optimize the kind of traffic that is more likely to convert than not on those platforms. I guess I'm just interested in, from your perspective, are organizations, are they fearful of dipping the toe into other, especially social, paid social, or do they kind of have a wide net and say, you know what, let's give it a shot across all of the paid social channels?
It depends on their budget. So when people come over to us, we have to look at, right, what's the marketing journey look like for people? How many touch points is it going to take, and how do we get the cheapest possible touch points to get you to your end goal? A lot of people will come in, they want to jump straight on paid search, high intent, blah blah blah. Great, but it's not great if nobody knows who you are, because then you're going to get clicked on, but they're going to be curiosity clicks. And then they're going in and they're not ready to buy, and you keep hitting them with all these things all the time. So realistically, what we normally do is we start people on paid social, we use the creative element of it to actually generate that intent, and then we use Google to capture that intent. So everything has to be kind of multi-channel. The businesses that really, really struggled after all this fallout with people that had all their eggs in one basket, and this was the only thing that was keeping them going, whether that be paid search, whether that be paid social. And paid social gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes because, at the end of the day, people say, oh, our audience isn't on there. Yes, they are. I will guarantee you they are. There are billions of people that use it every day. They might not go on and click and buy straight away from it, but you need those touch points. And we've had situations where people don't believe that paid social or organic social even is having an effect. So they switch the paid social ads off, and then their direct traffic drops 20-30%. And go, oh, what's happening? Well, I wonder what's happening. Just because you can't see it in front of you doesn't mean it's not contributing towards a common goal. Yeah. It's the businesses that constantly try and treat all their channels as enemies and go, how much did that make? And how much did that make? And this one's better than that. They're all on the same team. They're all on the same team. And if you spend hours and days and weeks trying to, micro attribute every single lead to every single ad, you're going to drive yourself under. Those businesses won't be around unless you actually, accept that this is how marketing is measured now, because you've got nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, especially if you can look at kind of the behaviors, even if you just do it kind of with cohorts of behavior across multiple different acquisition channels. You can actually start, I think you could probably actually start plotting out, like, what is it? There may be someone who's looking for, to buy, a pair of sneakers or something, and they'll search on Google, then they might jump onto Facebook, they might jump onto LinkedIn. So all those touch points you talk about can span multiple different acquisition channels, different locations, until boom, touch point number 6, I'm ready to go and buy a pair of Nikes, So it's kind of that analysis of that behavior is pretty important. And that's where I think these insights from, going back to kind of excluded data, is as you go through, like, we kind of look at it, what we do is kind of almost like a filtration system, right? Well, and there's huge benefit just in terms of, kind of filtering out the bad behavior, so you're not paying for those clicks. You're not, you don't have those downstream costs of having the click in the funnel, but also by filtering out the bad stuff across all these channels, you're kind of getting closer to what your ICP is, because you're filtering out the crap that you don't need, focusing on stuff that has a propensity to buy. So I wonder whether, the analysis of this data can actually start to provide kind of cohorts of activity that lead to a conversion at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
I believe so. Yeah. And I think people come in and, if someone says they've got like 2 or 3 ICPs, you go, well, actually, realistically, you probably need about 30 or 50, because, you're coming in there and right, okay, well, this person's looking for information. This person is looking for options to buy, but this one's driven by price, this one's driven by proximity, and this one's driven by social proof. So you need different messaging for all these people if you're going to actually convert them. Yeah. And too many people are slapping the same message out to everybody, hoping for the best. 20% will come through, and then they'll keep chasing that 20% and letting 80% of the shite drift in. And it's like, it doesn't logically like compute with me. So when you try and say, oh, use something like this, we need to turn this bit off, test this bit, trial another, find another ICP, break it down into, 3 subsets of this one. You're constantly kind of fighting against the tide, it feels like sometimes. Yeah. But if you want to get that to that level where you really scale up, the ironic thing is you need to get really granular before you can scale up.
Yeah. But when you get it, it's kind of, you hit a gold scene kind of thing. You say, right, I know what it is now. Double down on that and invest.
Exactly. And if you've got it across one platform, human beings are the same. If they're finding you on Facebook, if they're finding you on Instagram, if they find you on Snapchat, it doesn't matter. If you know what messages they're responding to, if you can clean the pool in one area, and then you're not suck it and see in another platform, you go, actually, these kind of people just never convert. They're not for us. These aren't the people we want. Drag and drop that onto every single platform you've got, and suddenly you've just saved yourself 20% of your budget.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. I totally agree. Amar, I'm conscious that you had a load of questions for us. I don't know if you've answered any of them, but we've had a good conversation in the meantime.
To be honest, I was hoping it'd go this way anyway. You made some good points. I suppose I think we all know the answer to this question, but where do you both see the future with regards to data transparency going now? I can kind of take a guess at what you're going to say, but I suppose, is there hope?
Lewis, go for it now.
I mean, there's always hope. I think data's always going to be important. It's always going to fuel what we do. But it's not just the data itself that's important. It's what pieces of that data are important, and it's how we're then going to use that to dictate our decisions in the marketing. Yes, we're probably going to lose some of this. I saw that lawnmower you were looking at, follow you around the internet, third-party cookie vibes. Of course we are. So that means that behaviors need to change across the board as to how we measure stuff. Start measuring more holistic metrics, like marketing efficiency ratio, your blended new customer CPA. We need to shift that mindset that was just ROI at all costs, because it's not even a good metric to measure. And we've seen businesses chasing ROI that will bankrupt themselves. So it's explaining how that actually works and what you need to be focusing on. Data is always going to be there. I suppose if you kick up enough fuss, and the marketers from our side and then tech people from your side kick up enough fuss, they're going to have to combat it and give us access to something. Otherwise, you saw what happened with Facebook with the amount of spend that was kind of like pulled off it as soon as that happened, because everybody thought it wasn't working anymore, and it was working. They just weren't measuring it right anymore because the dashboard wasn't a reliable source of truth. So if Google want to avoid that, they've seen them make the mistake now. So they'd be pretty daft if they did the exact same thing and kept black boxing it.
Yeah, totally agree. From my perspective, I think there's two things that come to mind, Amal, when I think about that. The first one is that there is technology that can go some way to unlock that black box. I mean, we're one of those technologies, and we happen to be click fraud prevention, but as a result of doing that, we do unlock some of that data. So that data can be analyzed, and there's definitely, we see a lot of insights from that. So there is tech that can help. And the second one is, we've all heard about kind of, first party, zero party data. I think the relationship with the customer has always been important, but even now, more than ever, if you can increase or enhance the relationship you have with the customer, so that you provide a service whereby they will give you data in return for that. That could be really quality data that actually strengthens the bond between customer and vendor even more so. And that data can really be useful, right? But you can't really approach it as a scattergun approach in terms of, well, everyone just fill in forms and try and get as much data as possible. You need to have a more intimate relationship with the customer base, so that they'll gladly give you their data in that case.
I totally agree. I think that community-driven stuff is going to be massive. And if you're open and honest with people, I remember at the start when people saw the the ad prompt saying, "Do you want to opt out? Ask apps not to track." They thought they were opting out of ads. What they were opting out of was targeted ads. So now you're getting targeted like funeral plans and tampons when you're a 35-year-old bloke, and you're like, what is going on here? What is something that the God is trying to tell me here? So people are actively trying to opt back in now, but I think they did a terrible job of saying, this is why we have your data, this is what we do with it, this is how you opt out of certain pieces of it. I think they did a terrible job of that, and if they would have done it a lot better, the fallout wouldn't have been half as bad as it was, and people would understand it a lot more now and say, actually, I'm happy to opt into this bit because I want to see products that I've been looking at. I want to be reminded of stuff like that. But what I don't want to see is my data being shipped off to some, I don't know, farm somewhere and then being shared across organized crime gangs. You've got to give people the choice.
Yeah, and then as they see that being reinforced, so they are being, it's only stuff that they're really genuinely interested in, they're seeing, then they'll gladly give a certain amount of data that keeps both sides happy. It's a transition, it's a change from where we are now, but it's a positive one, actually.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree.
Okay.
Right, chaps, I'm afraid that 20 minutes or so is actually, you just whizzed by.
Really?
Wow. Already. So, no, it's been great, and I think people will get a lot from this. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up really more than anything else. I suppose just everyone who's attended, obviously, thanks again for tuning in. Big thanks to Lewis for joining today, and obviously Pete as well, as always. Like I said before, this is going to be available on demand, so you can get a copy of this. If you want to pick up the conversation with Lewis or Pete as well, then feel free to get in touch. We can share those details. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, and until next time, we'll see you then.
Lovely.
Hey guys.
See you later, gents.
See ya. Bye.